1, 2, 3, funk it.
My darling, I love you, 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 I love you.
Scary Things Kids Say Part 13, my favorite number, and also the amount of followers I have now. What the fuck? Also, all the stories on this one are coming from you guys. When my brother was little, he used to tell my mom that the girl thought she was funny. My mom was confused and asked which girl. My older brother replied with the girl in the rocking chair. He didn't know about ghosts at the time. Oh my god. Me and my brother used to sleep talk, and not normal sleep talk. We would have active conversation to each other about our day-to-day life, and the other would reply with a real answer. This went on for a couple of years until my mom split our rooms up, and then we would scream bloody murder, and not scream loud, but the actual words bloody murder. One night I was tucking my kid into bed, and then she said, "Mommy, I don't like knocking, what can we do?" The mom was confused, then said, "That's what doorbells are for, sweetie." Then the little girl said, "Can we get a doorbell on my window then?" Fuck no. No ma'am, no. Scary Things Kids Say Part 13 and a half. I ran out of time on the last video, but I still have some stories that you guys sent me and I want to add them here. And for those of you that ask me, I do get scared reading these things, but look. I have my fiance next to me. I was on the trampoline with my 3-year-old neighbor when I said, "I'm the feetsies monster, I'm gonna get you." His response was, "You mean like the man in the window?" After that, he would not stop screaming, "No, don't get me," even after I stopped trying to get him. What the hell? When I was younger, I woke up to blood splatter on my bedroom mirror. I didn't think anything of it because I had 2 nosebleeds the day before until I remembered that my bedroom was locked all day. What the hell? Scary Things Kids Say Part 14 is next, and probably up right now. Or after this. Scary Things Kids Say Part 14. My 4-year-old son and I were waiting for our food at Panera. While we stood there, he started rubbing my belly and talking to it. I asked him what he was doing. He said he was talking to the baby. I informed him that I was not pregnant, and he said, "There is a baby in your belly. I just saw it crawl across the floor and climb into you." What the fuck? Just today, my 4-year-old son told me, "I think we live in a pretend world and someone is playing with us." I asked him what he meant, and it got even weirder. Well, it seems like someone does things to us, but we can't see them because we are in this world and they are not. My sister described her imaginary friend saying, "He sits on my bed and waits for his mom. He's not allowed to go home by himself because of his arm." I asked what happened to his arm, and she said, "His mom ran him over when he was drawing with chalk. That's why he's always crying, because he doesn't like being dead." I have had multiple miscarriages. My daughter, "I met your babies that died in my dream. They want you to know you're a good mom." Scary Things Kids Say Part 15. My mother was babysitting my daughter while I was at the doctor's appointment and said, "Oh no, Grandma, Mama's not coming anymore today. She was in a bad accident. She can't come get us." I had indeed been in an accident that almost killed me at the exact time. None of my family had yet been notified. My family has recently moved to a new home in a new country. It was a well-furnished apartment, and in our bedroom was a painting that looked like hair free flowing in the air. It wasn't a pleasant or soothing painting, but I was trying to make peace with it. My son was 2.5 years old then. One day I was settling him down for an afternoon nap in my bedroom when he said, "I don't want to sleep in this room." I asked him why, and he said, "This painting looks at me and tries to talk to me and I don't like it." I wouldn't even paint over that thing. I'd freaking take down the wall. No, 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 no. Scary Things Kids Say Part 16. On my way from work, my 3-year-old daughter in the back seat. We'd pass a very old cemetery every day. She used to tell me the people in there were waving at her. I would tell her there was nobody there, and I explained what a cemetery was. She was adamant she saw people in a school and a store, and they'd wave at her. This went on for several months, and every day she'd tell me. I was telling this to a coworker who lived in the area and was a history buff. He then researched the cemetery and told me the area was actually the site of where soldiers fought in the war, and they were buried there. They also made a very tiny town for a small time, Samp Town, and there was a school, a little store, and some people lived there. If that wasn't enough to freak me out, one day driving past, my daughter told me a lady in there wanted to come in. I found a different route home after that. I'm starting to believe that kids see things. I think it's because they're so young that they can't determine whether something is real or not, or they're open to I don't know. Scary Things Kids Say Part 17. My mom told me when I was a kid around the age of 4, I would go to my great-grandmother's every day to spend some time with her. And every time I was going home, I would say to her, as a good religious child I was, God be with you. But one time when I was leaving, I told her, go with God. According to my mom, my mom corrected me, but I insisted in saying, go with God. That night, my great-grandmother died. My daughter was 3 and I was getting her ready for the day. She had been waking up with nightmares almost every night for the month or so. I asked what she wanted for breakfast and she told me she wanted to share it with the dead baby in her closet. I thought she meant one of her dolls, but when I pulled them out, she said, no, not a doll, the dead one that sleeps on the closet floor at night. When I was about 3, we had a cat that had stillborn kittens. I asked my father if we can make crosses for them, which he did. As he was making them, I asked, aren't those too small? Dad, what do you mean? Me, aren't we going to nail them to them? Dad, after several moments of silence, we're not doing that. Me, oh. Scary Things Kids Say Part 18. On a flight with my son, the plane took off and hit a couple bumps. The passengers were being somewhat quiet and my son yelled, we're all gonna die. My 3-year-old son was softly singing while he was coloring. I stopped to listen, but I had never heard that song before. I asked him where he learned it and he said, the lady in my bedroom sang it to me. No. When I was about 4, my mom found me in the bathroom with all my Barbies, making them float face down in the bath. When she asked what I was doing, I replied, the man in the wardrobe told me if I didn't do it, it would be my turn to swim face down. A huge thunderstorm one night, my son, about 4 at the time, put his hands on the sliding glass door and says, oh God, don't take me, I'm too young to die. Looks back at my mom, take grandma, she is old. When I was really little, I pointed to a tree outside my house and said to my family, that tree is going to die. No one thought anything of it, but the next morning it randomly fell over and crushed my grandpa's car. Fuck. Scary Things Kids Say Part 19. Child had woken up early, so she was watching cartoons next to me in my bed while I tried to wake up. I heard a funny sound downstairs earlier that I mentally blamed on the dogs. Then kiddo leans over to me and remarks, oh, there's a man in the house. Awake. Never found anything, never got further details from her. My friend's 7-year-old kid pretended to put me in jail. Our conversation went something like this. Me, what did I do? Forget to brush my teeth? Didn't do my homework? Her, you murdered a 23-year-old woman while she was jogging in the early morning. Me. On the playground, my daughter points to the swing next to her. Mommy, come push my ghost friend Flossie. Flossie was my great-grandmother who passed before I was born. I work at a summer camp and one day I was playing with this kid who was jumping off of things and onto me. I said, hey, be careful, if you kill me, I can't play with you anymore. He looked at me dead in the eyes and said, no, but I can play with you. Oh, no. Scary Things Kids Say Part 20. My 5-year-old. Mom, I need to throw away 2 of my Barbies. Me. Why? Her. Because they look back at me. My daughter's friend's dad, Ian, came in for a cup of tea one day when we came to pick up his daughter. My girl, Izzy, was playing with a toy sword. Ian said to her, you know, Izzy, the pen is mightier than the sword. Izzy said, I know. Yeah, because you can stab someone in the neck with a pen. This bitch is crazy. The other week, I was reading my 2-year-old daughter a bedtime story. When we finished, we were talking about being scared of ghosts, monsters, trolls, and she turned to me and said, Daddy, I'm not scared of ghosts. I asked, why is that? To which she replied, because the one that comes into my room at night and strokes my hair is a nice one. Last year, my daughter kept crying and telling me I was going to die at 33 like my dad. I never told her or remember telling anyone while she was around that my dad died when he was 33. Well, I'm 33 years old and I have to say I've been living carefully this year, hoping to make it until next month when I turn 34. Scary Things Kids Say Part 21. My 8-year-old daughter last year told me, Mom, I love you and all, but sometimes I don't think you're you. It completely caught me off guard, so I asked her what she meant by that, followed with, of course it's me, honey. Who else would I be? Well, sometimes I feel like my real mom was taken away and you're just a creature wearing her skin. My triplets once told me we used to hear a man talking to us in our old house, but we could never find him. I was out with my little puppy, a kid about 4 years old. I already know this is gonna be real fucking weird. A kid about 4 years old came up to me, excited to pet her. His dad said, be gentle, as the kid was heavily hitting her head, thinking he was stroking her nicely as kids do. Then the kid looked at me and said, if I hug it really hard, all the blood and guts will come out everywhere. The dad excused both and left. Exactly what I thought I was going to hear. To our 3-year-old son, what would you do if we had another baby? I'd kill it. Scary Things Kids Say Part 22. When my nephew was 5, he offered me a cookie. When I reached out to accept it, he pulled it away from me and told me he wasn't offering it to me, but to the person standing behind me. There was no one there. Rude. My neighbor was babysitting my daughter one day while I was at work. They were sitting in the dining room playing with little pet shop toys. My daughter was very into the game and asked, "Do you know what it feels like to die?" And my neighbor said, no. My daughter asked, "Do you want to?" And my neighbor said, no. My daughter creepily looked at her and said, "Then leave me alone." Don't fuck with her toys, I guess. When her father asked her why she had done some particularly demented thing, my friend's daughter answered, "I don't know. I'm not driving this thing. I'm just along for the ride." My child would talk to the bathroom wall to her imaginary friend. When I asked who she was talking to, she said the boy from the coal mine. We had a mine shaft running next to our house. Nope, just nope. Scary Things Kids Say Part 23. My daughter, about 5-year-old at the time, was riding with me in my truck. A gnat mosquito bug of some kind is buzzing around her and bothering her, so she's complaining about it. So I told her to just swat it. She visually follows it until it's against the passenger window and quickly smashes it with her hand. She then turns to me with the strangest look in her eye and says, "That was my first time killing something. I don't think it will be the last time." My 5-year-old son out of the clear blue sky tells me while we're snuggling for bedtime, "Mom, when you die after the funeral, I'm going to take you back home with me. I will chop off your head and shake all your guts out. Then I will put you on the table by my bed so I can look at your face before I go to sleep and always remember that I really love you." A little serial killerish, but it shows how deep he loves his mommy. Okay. When my son was 2, I told him to be careful when he was jumping around. He said, "It's okay, Mom. Grandpa George is watching me." My dad passed away when my son was 2 months old, and we really hadn't talked about him. Scary Things Kids Say Part 24. My daughter and I were reading on the couch one Sunday morning. It was raining outside. We were wrapped up warm in a blanket. She had a cup of tea and I had the perfect Americano. Life was good. My daughter looked up at me and said, "Dad, when you die, can I cut you open and look inside?" I choked a bit on my coffee. My wife simply turned around and did an about face and walked back upstairs. "Sure," I said. She looked up at me smiling. My son always says odd things. Usually they're funny, but this one threw me for a loop. I was telling him how much I love him and thanks for being in my life. He said, "I didn't choose this life. I couldn't control how it began, but I can control how it ends." Oh, excuse me? We were on our way home to Alabama from Texas and my son was in the back seat and he said, "Mommy, who's the man in the back seat with me?" It was just us two. No one else was with us that I can see. I asked him to describe him and he said he's just black with red eyes. He's scaring me. So I pulled over and put his seat in the front with me. He said the man looked like he wanted to eat. Scary Things Kids Say Part 25. I taught English in a school in Spain and I wasn't supposed to let the kids know that I speak Spanish, so that they're forced to communicate in English. A 10-year-old girl comes up to me one day, grabs me by the hand and says with the most horrifying straight face ever, "Te vas a la muerte," or "You're going to die." I was so shocked at the randomness of it that my jaw must have dropped. She then laughed her head off and said, "Ha! You do speak Spanish." She then skipped away, laughing and smiling. Creepiest thing a kid has ever said to me, and probably the most clever thing a kid ever did while I was a teacher. My little cousin once told me he wished he could cut off my hand so that he can hold my hand even when I wasn't there. I'm a nanny for a toddler who's still learning to talk. As we walk through our local cemetery, like who the fuck does that? Which is normal in our neighborhood. What neighborhood are you from? Come on. Hocus Pocus? Like, what neighborhood? She pointed at the area above the grave saying, "People, look, people," over and over. Scary Things Kids Say Part 26. I was explaining to my niece the difference between things that can and can't change about people. She was confused because she'd met a set of 3 siblings and the eldest wasn't the tallest. So I told her that one day even she, an itty-bitty 4-year-old, can be taller than me, a big, huge grown-up. But even if she was taller, I would be older. She looked me serious as you like and says, "You'll be dead sooner too." Excuse me? My son said that Christians are obviously the worst drivers. When I asked why, he said because all you ever see are crosses on the side of the road. Oh my God. I used to work at a daycare that was adjacent to a large cemetery. Sometimes the kids would gather at the fence and stare into the cemetery talking about a little boy they wanted to play with. As it turns out, the part of the cemetery that bordered that fence was the same part where all the kids' babies were buried. It really freaked out some of the girls that worked there. It would freak me out too. Scary Things Kids Say Part 27. Driving along with my 3-year-old. "It's okay, Mommy." Me. What's okay? My stepmother will be nice to me, not like Cinderella. Okay, what stepmother? I'm happily married to her dad. The one I'll get when you die. Wait, how am I dying? A robber is going to come in the window and shoot you. Are you worried about mommy dying? No, because my stepmom's going to be really nice. The entire conversation was totally calm on her part. In our old house, my daughter would refuse to sleep in her room. She would come downstairs and say things were moving. But the scariest one was when she came downstairs in tears and said, something was tickling my back, but I can't see it. I never made her sleep alone again. We put her bed in my son's room after that and since moved from the house, where all of us had experiences much worse than she had. Scary Things Kids Say Part 28. In the middle of the night, my little sister turned to me and said, "Do you hear them talking?" But it was dead silent. I have a much younger cousin that always called his parents by their first names. When he was about 3 to 4 years old, he started talking about his real parents that were killed in a car accident. My aunt and uncle are his biological parents. He was an uneasy baby too, and my dad often looked at him and would say he doesn't want to be here. Why is it always 3 and 4-year-olds? When my niece was around 3 or 4, I'm telling y'all, when my niece was around 3 or 4 years old, she told me she used to have a baby, but it drowned. The baby was called Peanut Butter, but still. Scary Things Kids Say Part 29. My 3-year-old daughter and I were talking to her older brother on FaceTime when she starts screaming and squirming. She said, "Mommy, my pappy is here." Both her grandfathers had passed away before she was born. I said, "Who? What pappy, and where is he?" She points to my phone as we're talking to my son and says, "He's standing behind Eric," pointing at my phone. My son turned around to look from his phone and chatted with us. When my fully charged phone dies, she said, "Pap did that." When my youngest child was 6, she asked me how old I was. Now, being only 37 at the time, I was thinking I had a good few years left. But when I told her my age, she gasped and said, "Mom, you're almost dead." At my grandmother's funeral, my then 2-year-old daughter crawled up to the kneeler and patted my grandmother's chest, turned around and looked at my dad and said, "Grandma's happy." Guys, I'm sorry I sound like crap. Sucks being sick. Scary Things Kids Say Part 30. My youngest of 3 boys, at 3 years old, just asked my wife, "Mommy, it would be better if you only had 2 sons, wouldn't it?" We were on a boat on vacation and my 4-year-old cousin got really close to me and whispered in my ear, "I want to be a doctor so I can watch children die." Oh God. My son told me about a dead woman with blue skin, no hair, and black eyes, who supposedly lived in our old apartment. He said he watched her follow us outside and tried to get in our car, but there was no room, so she stood outside and watched us leave while waving goodbye. Peace. Bye. I work with kids on autism spectrum. One of them said, "They can see us, but we can't see them." And that's some real shit right there, for real though.